One of the most common questions that I hear from teachers who are new to the profession and teachers who have been in it for 20 years like me is, how do you get readers who have had bad experiences reading, or who don't want to read, or who are embarrassed about their skills, or maybe they're even new to English? How do you get them reading in your classroom and excited about reading?
You just described my whole entire life.
This is a huge problem.
But what solution specifically?
That's a difficult question, one that plagues all of us. And so we tried it so you don't have to. The strategy we're talking about today is none other than Reader's Theater. If you haven't heard of Reader's Theater, it's essentially when you get your entire class to read a play where everyone in the class has parts. And in a very effective Reader's Theater, you make sure that there's reading parts for students of all reading levels and that there's class choral sections. So when I conduct my Reader's Theater, I always have at least 2 or 3 times on a page class, and then they all laugh at a joke that we've built in, or they have to shout for a team or a side that they're on. And then as they're yelling or they're laughing or they read together, I walk around and watch their mouths to make sure everybody's reading. And the first couple times I do it, the class is kind of reluctant. But one of the ways I do it to make sure that every single person participates is that I don't put myself in charge. The great thing about Reader's Theaters is you conduct them like a play. You take a student and you let them run for who would be the best director, and you have the class pick a director and then a second director. You have someone work lighting, and you can even do costumes. And what I've learned is if you bring costumes into the classroom and set them out before the kids even get there, the students who frequently have the biggest energy but are the most reluctant about reading are so excited to wear the costumes or so excited to be the director that they'll pick up whatever it is that you have and they'll engage in the activity in ways that you've never seen. I've tried this in my classroom for the last 5 years, and I can't even imagine going back to a world without Reader's Theater. It's the one way that I guarantee that I know in 1 hour where my students are at with their fluency. Within 1 hour, I can tell what kids have been beat down by the educational system, have no confidence in their reading, and what kids simply just want to play. I can tell if kids are embarrassed about the way they pronounce things, and I can see how they react to peer pressure. And what's great is I get to just sit and watch as the director directs the scene. Before the students even come in, I make sure that I know which roles are a little higher, are written on grade level, which roles are written like at the middle grade level, and then which roles are maybe very accessible for students who are still struggling at the first and second grade level. By simply keying the students in on which roles I think they will be great for. And I never tell them, you'll be great for this because it's a second grade role. I say, you'll be great for this because it's really funny. And I make sure that my second and third grade roles are humorous, or that they're interesting, or that they're grouchy. I love to make like lower level reading passages, kind of where the characters are mad and angry or sleepy, or they don't want to be there, because then I can be like, this is great for you. You don't want to read, and this character doesn't want to be in the play either. And then they'll laugh and they'll read the line, and then I give them a lot of praise and extra credit, and it builds their confidence. And overwhelmingly what happens is that the students that I think will not want to read become the stars of the show. And they ask to do Reader's Theater again and again and again. And when I give them choice about what they want to do, a battle reenactment, a play, even a free day, my students will frequently pick Reader's Theater. There's this preconceived notion, I feel like Reader's Theater has kind of like a bad rap. People think that it's only used in little group settings, maybe in elementary school, 4 to 6, kids per reading group. And we're missing out on the power of using plays and drama to connect with our middle school and high school students. This may surprise you, but it's actually my AP students who love my Reader's Theaters the most. In those plays, we can get into the depth of classical republicanism, how parliamentary traditions have influenced the Constitution, and those really gritty debates and dislikes between Hamilton and Jefferson. And you can do that in a play in a way that a lecture could never access, because the kids get to become the characters. They get to embody the emotions. And I think it's really important for us as educators to remember that motivation comes from emotion. We are emotional creatures. We learn first by feeling. And so if we can use our play or our Reader's Theater to invoke emotion, then our kids become involved in creating reading. And when they do that, they create characters and they create setting. And these are the keys to good reading. A good reader sees visuals. A good reader connects with the emotions of the character. And plays allow us to do that, especially when the directors are having them do it again and again to make it more powerful and enriching, which means the students themselves are coaching each other on how to bring the literature to life. And we just get to sit back and enjoy and help when we need to. And that allows Reader's Theater to transcend kindergarten all the way through senior year in a way that creates depth and authenticity in the classroom. Let's talk pros of Reader's Theater. One of the biggest pros of Reader's Theater by far is how much content you can cover in a limited amount of time. So in a Reader's Theater setting, I can in one period cover a vast host of my history standards, or in English, a vast amount of my English standards. And that's because when you're doing a play, you have reading comprehension isn't necessary, speaking is necessary, listening is imperative, and then you have to also show that you understand the emotion, and the cause and effect is linked through the emotional reactions of the character. So in one scene or in one setting, I can teach in a play what would take me an hour to teach. And what's more interesting is at the end of the play, I can have kids ask questions, and then the gaps that they have can drive my lecture forward so that they're now actively learning the material instead of being passive learners, which allows it to stick, right? It's sticky learning so that they're able to hold it better. Okay, the second reason I highly recommend, and maybe the most important, that I highly recommend Reader's Theater is I promise you, you can get every single member of your classroom reading. I know what you're thinking. I don't do plays. I'm not interested. I'm not that kind of person. But I convinced one of my very best friends and a super amazing teacher just to try it. And the results are conclusive. Every person I've had that have tried my plays have said over and over again, the kid who's never read for me was the lead role. I can't believe it. Every kid wanted to wear costumes and dress up. You're never going to believe this. They asked me to do it again tomorrow. You don't know unless you've tried it. And I highly recommend that you just open your mind to giving the kid who's never had success reading the opportunity to play a role, dress up in a costume, and goof around in a way where they get extra credit points or positivity or some kind of reward so that they can feel part of the classroom again. One of the big cons of Reader's Theater is it usually takes an entire class period. And if you write a good play, it sometimes can take 2 to 3 days. And it takes a lot of time because the kids become the directors and they cast everybody, and you give them the imperative and encourage them to go over parts of the scene if it's not done well. So if there's a student who's not speaking loud enough, your director will stop and say, do that again, take 2, take 3. And so depending on the classroom and the directors and how quickly they are casting it, depends on how smooth the play will go, which means problem number 2. You have to do a lot of directions of kids helping moderate each other. Frequently, you'll actually have kids really either wanting the same role and getting really competitive about getting that role, or maybe at first you'll have a reluctant classroom who doesn't think they can do it and you have a hard time finding leadership. So getting that sweet spot in the class where they have the confidence to participate, but they also will share the roles and not compete over the roles itself. And third, and definitely most importantly, finding a good play that works is the hardest part. In fact, it's best to write your own. If you write your own play for your classroom, then you can guarantee there's lots of different parts for students to participate. You can also guarantee that there's class sections where everybody talks and they repeat things that will be on the test and standards. And most important, you can throw their names in or jokes or details about their personal lives that make the play hit home for them. So regardless of how you do Reader's Theater, I highly recommend it, and I think it is a key that I use in my classroom so that I guarantee every single one of my students will read for me and enjoys reading, and that I can help make reading a more enriching and more exciting activity for students who maybe haven't had so much success with school in the past. So, 2 thumbs up.